Hello, everyone. This is Chala, CEO and founder of the Repositioning Expert, coming to you live with another Tuesday Tea Time with Chala. I cannot lie, I have protein today. Let me take a sip. It's such a big volume that I'm just waiting for it to hit me. All right. So the B2B trust gap. I love talking about trust because I think it's so funny that people trust their Uber driver more than they trust their neighbors. And this weird dynamic is also played out in the B2B trust gap, where actual buyers versus sellers have very differing beliefs about trust. One of the things that I love about talking about trust is because marketing is the number one way to build trust before you're even in the sales conversation or the sales game. Marketing is the only way to build trust if you don't know someone on the inside of a corporation that you're selling to. And a lot of my clients have run out of their Rolodex and their word of mouth and their referrals, or it's just not enough, which is why they hire me. And I teach them how to build trust very quickly with their marketing, with the right people in the right way so that they can get in. They'll be allowed into a sales conversation with the buyers. So let me just first tell you about according to the PR firm Edelman's research, 90% of sellers think buyers trust them. And guess what? Only between 57 and 70% of buyers, and this differs according to industry, actually believe them, actually trust them to be doing what they're saying, to be honorable, to be honest, to be forthright, and all of that. So the lowest trust industry is financial services at 57%, and the highest is still at 70%, and that's manufacturing. So that's how far buyers trust. And when you ask the sellers, they think 90% of them think that sellers trust them and that they're trustworthy. Okay, so how do you get the trust? How do you use your marketing to build the trust? So the first thing everybody looks at, especially with AI, is online presence and content. And a lot of clients that are small businesses are avoiding this, or they're third partying it, or they're doing it generically because they don't know any better and they don't know how to do it any differently, and that they've been told that's what they need to do. And so credibility is so important because well-known brands win 81% of sales, versus if one buyer only knows you as the seller, your sales close rate goes down to 4% from 81. So that's why it's so important for you to have a really robust and cohesive online presence, which includes the right thing to talk about, the right way to talk about it, the right target to hit, which is reflected in your language of who you're addressing, reflecting how they speak about the problem that you're a specialist in, and so on. And I'm going to go into that specialization because, as you know, I'm a huge proponent of super niching, specialization, and being very clear on who you help and what you do to help them. Number two way of how to get trust is consistent messaging. So when you have a super niche, when you develop and find a super niche is a very specific industry or interest group target with a very specific pinpoint of a subsegment of a larger pain point that you specialize in and own. When you talk to your prospects in the marketplace, and your marketing is based on that pain point and on that super niche. So when your constant and consistent messaging hits buyers, and the average is always changing, but last average I saw was 7 to 12 times, when the buyer is hit with that same consistent pain-based messaging of, we help your industry do this, solve this problem, and this is how we do it. You say that 7 to 12 times in their world over and over again, and the same message is consistent all throughout the different platforms that you're on, And when they finally meet you face to face, your website is saying exactly what you've been telling them face to face in your presentation meetings or capability meetings. That's when you build trust. Otherwise, I mean, I've heard a story from Allison QB, who was presenting with me, I think 2 weeks ago at Capital One, where she talked about she actually recommended a vendor for one kind of work or one kind of solution. And they went in and they presented something totally different. And so there was lack of consistency in the messaging and they didn't get the sale. And she was embarrassed, she said, and she didn't want to refer them ever again. So you need to be consistent messaging. Number 3 way of getting trust is becoming a thought leader. Now, what does it take to become a thought leader? One, you have to have a super niche, a topic that you consistently talk about, blog about, keynote about, do executive roundtables around, and a very specific industry that you're constantly telling people that you're a specialist in, you're an expert in, and you're demonstrating with your presence and your content that you're a thought leader in that industry for that problem. So it takes a super niche all throughout your marketing to be able to do all of this. Now, other ways to become thought leaders is that you put on very expert-led kind of marketing collateral and or like white papers or executive roundtables like I do, which just by virtue of having someone invite them into my roundtable and someone they know, like, and trust, which we call, the avatars in the room, is who I can place in an executive roundtable that will invite people that they know, like, and trust. And so it becomes a trust by proxy. So these are some of the ways to bridge that B2B trust gap, is that you can be sure that the people who get introduced to me through somebody they know, like, and trust, through my marketing mix of getting them in a room where I'm the expert and the authority, then I look like a thought leader that is trustworthy. And this happened to me over and over again. Executive roundtables have now become the majority of the way that I, gain new business in new markets all throughout the US. And these rooms are filled with partners that are regional who know, like, and trust other business owners of the same size and quality and criteria that I'm looking for. So they have pre-qualified that room for me. And by virtue of the fact that I'm invited to co-host this roundtable and to facilitate this roundtable, I look like I know what I'm doing. I look like an authority. So thought leadership is all sorts of platform skills. So speaking, this kind of thing, which is speaking to masses, which you never know where it's going. But I'll tell you, when people are about to hire me, they binge my content. And even if it looks like there's like 2 people at 2:35 p.m. In the afternoon, which is like Toronto time, who are able to watch this, a lot more are watching it when I am on their table, ready to make a decision to buy from me or not to buy from me. So this all leads to thought leadership. I also have 3 podcasts all around the same topic, related to the same pain points. Again, thought leadership. Any kind of visibility that you do with that consistent messaging that I was talking about is thought leadership. So put a stake in the ground, lose your fear of speaking, lose your fear of visibility, and you have to get out there. So that's what I think. 88% of buyers said that they trust companies with educational content. So that's exactly how I make my sales. And that's how I teach my clients to make the sales, is that their marketing is the educational component, which they have to have a super niche to talk about as a thought leader. And number 4, lastly, how to get the trust, the B2B trust gap, to close that B2B trust gap, is demonstrate your honesty and transparency when you make mistakes or you're handling challenges. And the way to do that is make goods, refunds, frequent check-ins, owning up to your mistakes, owning up to the challenges, being proactive about challenges that you see coming down the line, being proactive about challenges that you see other clients are facing, that you go to current clients with solutions to. All of this builds credibility for your honesty and your transparency. So that all builds trust. And, whether they're in during the buying process, which they haven't bought from you yet, or they've already bought from you and you want them to buy more, you're going to cross-sell, upsell other things. These are really great ways for you to close the trust gap, because there is one, and it's existed for years and years and years, never going to go away. But the smart companies are using their marketing to close that trust gap and to facilitate and quicken the sale, because no trust, no sale, unfortunately. So B2B buyers who trust a company are twice as likely to recommend it to another buyer, and twice as likely to pay premium to continue to work with that same vendor. So I leave you with that thought that trust is probably one of the number one things that we're trying to build through marketing. And these are some of the ways that you can do it. So I wish you the best, and I will see you next Tuesday.